Hello, everybody. Sasseleigh Biggons here with my husband, Bill Bourbon, talking today about comedy, colleges, and culture, and how they're all probably effed and going to a very hot place. And I don't mean the South. But yes, one of the things that inspired the subject of today is if you watch any kind of comedy or interviews, I've been hearing for a very, very long time of how many comedians, good comedians, won't go to college campuses. And is that affecting free speech, or what is it that they truly hate about college campuses, of how kids don't laugh anymore, or the fear of being offended has ruined people's ability to hear outside views or different ways of spinning the same thing? And it truly is affecting our culture. Because if you do a voice of like, if I start talking, like in some kind of accent or something, I love Sofia Vergara, but no, I'm not making fun of her. I just make a voice like her, and then people assume I'm trying to like steal her soul or something. Yeah, but of course
or
I'm not. I love
or
her.
or even go as far as accuse you of cultural appropriation, which
Yeah,
is
stealing it,
a very
which you can't
serious
really
charge, in
do.
my opinion. I mean, I love Mexican food. I will go out of my way to prepare Mexican food in a Mexican manner, but because of
She's
my
from not. She's not
appreciation
from
for the
Mexico
food, and
though.
because
No,
yeah, I know
she's
she's
yeah,
from. I
she's
don't. No,
from.
I'm not talking about Sophie. I'm giving an example of cultural appropriation here. It's like if I was to sit here and just turn my whole house Mexican because I love Mexican food, Mexican
Yeah, which you
decor, and
practically
I'm
are.
not. I'm anything but Mexican.
In past life, you must have been. That's all I gotta say. But I do know where she's from. It's not Ecuador. It's that one next to it. It's that one
No,
where
they
it has
just have
like
the
the
best food.
highest murder rate in the entire world, number of kidnappings. But yeah, it's actually a very beautiful place.
Colombia,
Um,
Venezuela, something like
Colombia.
that.
It's
Oh,
Colombia.
you know what? I
Colombia.
don't sit here and on this. Yeah.
But yeah, cultural
Yep.
appropriation, or I think they're just looking for excuses to whine, bitch, and moan. It's like, I want attention, so let me find a problem where there isn't one, and let me protect something that doesn't actually matter. And the priorities of particularly the younger generation is just so effed up.
You can't make a comment regarding any of that stuff without somebody accusing you of being racist, at
They
all.
think they can, but at the same time, in order to, where's that old example where unless you agree with it, you can't participate in it? If you don't participate in it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, we all know we're not supposed to say the N word, but at the same time, do I get to go frantic, apeshit crazy every time someone calls me a cracker or whitey?
I
I mean,
prefer
I
the term
was, but
I prefer the term saltine American. Thank you very much.
or I prefer translucent because I'm that kind of white.
Yeah.
I'm translucent. I'm not white.
Is cracker the
White would
worst?
refer a solid color. I am not a solid color. Or does polka dot count? I'm also that. These dots don't mix. If they do, they call it cancer, which is medically correct. But yeah, they think that we'll play with their games, and it's like, nah, not playing a game. And I really don't care if they get pissed off. Yet, it's like they need to get pissed off to be brought back to reality.
Well, I don't see the point in that, quite honestly. I really don't.
There isn't one, and that's kind of the point to itself. It's they want the outrage, they want the hissy fit, they want the something is wrong and it must be kept wrong so that something can be made more moral. No, they're trying to socially manipulate. It's called social manipulation. It's what little kids do when they throw huge hissy fits. They're manipulating their parents. It's all that it is.
And that's what we come down to.
Yeah, childishness is. I know they have the expression of the was it the insane.
That was more of a rhetorical statement, but yes, as that was come down to,
Yeah, the crazies have taken over the asylum and now they're running the asylum. Also known as the children are now the substitute for adults, and no, they're not. Give me adult any day of the week. Kids can go pound bricks. Don't care. And when I say kids, we're talking anyone who acts like a child, and I don't care how old you are. I am not particularly for chronologically immature, non advanced adults. Or I call them chronologically older children, where you might age, but nothing else about you does other than your body.
I was having a conversation with my chiropractor earlier today about people pretty much living like they're still in high school. And that's what it seems like. It seems like they've never
You're
really
still
gotten
living
out.
where? You blurped out from it.
It was a conversation. I had a conversation with a chiropractor about how some people are still living like they're in high school, as if, that mentality
Yes.
still exists. And I'm seeing a lot of that in my adult life, and it hasn't gone away. You know, I'm I don't like to be reminded of high school. Those were the worst years of my life.
I was homeschooled. It was all the worst years of my life.
Oh, I know it must have been so hard working on that Amish farm you grew up on.
Well, we're Amish more Mennonite ish.
Hmm.
As I say, Amish hippie with a touch of Protestantism.
Yeah, that good, clean country life where you work with your bare hands and all that.
Oh, we did. I wouldn't wear gloves very often.
I'm
They
making
just got
fun
in
of it.
the
I'm
way.
making fun of it because I actually like your parents. I don't think they're that bad, nor would they ever stoop that low again.
Well, this also, if we're gonna be touching on other things, you know how people like say, like there was a girl, she saw some fake cotton at like a Michaels or a Hobby Lobby, and thought that somehow it was extremely offensive. This girl's from the inner
Really, have
city.
you seen how they harvest modern cotton? Nobody gets out there in the fields and picks it anymore. And if people are still thinking that,
Yeah,
they
no,
are
big
living in the
machinery does it.
past. Yeah,
But because she saw the fake flower as a decoration at a craft store, there's this huge hubbub over it, and someone thought it was necessary to write an article about it. And all I could think of was, I picked green beans by the miles. Where were you then? You could have helped out. Like, I've had more actual migrant style work than any of these people who are actually complaining. It's like, where were you when we were taking down the rusty barbed wire fence and we had to
yeah,
pull it
good
up
question.
out of the grass? Where were you during all the snowstorms? We had to shovel our way out to the barn so the animals wouldn't die. Where were you when we had to defrost 50-pound water buckets? Where were you when we had to shovel out stalls and took 5 heaping wheelbarrows full that probably weighed about 200 pounds each, and we had to maneuver them out? It was probably about a good 100 feet out to the manure pile where we had to take it to.
And
Where
you
were
make
you
no,
then?
no. You make a good point. You make a good point because none of these privileged little buttholes, and I mean that in the most sincerest form of the word, that have ever been out here to do anything like that in real life.
But no, they just see it in
These are
picture
the
books.
same people that tell me my job is hard. They really do. Either that or they have no clue. You know.
They don't. They've never
Oh, it's work
gotten.
outside in the heat. Yeah, and I've adapted. Thank you very much.
Or like, where were you when we were picking tomatoes in greenhouses, which make, okay, if it's 90 outside, it's 120 inside the greenhouse. Where
Or
were
more.
y'all then? Or heck,
See,
we
none of
even we
these
even brought in
buttholes.
hay on my birthday. We brought in
You
hay
make
on
a
my
good point.
birthday.
You make a good point about these college kids not ever doing any actual real work, which probably the worst they've ever done is mow their parents' grass, and they've complained about it the whole time. God,
And
this
they
is
only
so
had what, a quarter acre, not like 50.
maybe not even
No,
that
even
much.
50. Now the top part probably had about 3 solid acres, and then the
Yeah.
rest of it turned to woods before it went into hay fields. But yeah, even then, my mom, it was after 2 summers. It was a summer where they thought I dyed my hair because how much it had lightened from all the time I'd spent mowing the lawn. And then because of it, mom saw, that brown mole thing on my back.
Yeah.
That's the year that one grew. And then she
You might
sent
want
me
to get that
direct. Say what?
you might want to get that one checked out for real.
Oh, I did. Mom Mom thought that was the year where she went through this phase where all of us were dying of cancer. No matter what she saw on us, we were all dying of cancer. And I was the
Right.
only one she was able to convince to go to a doctor and have it checked out because at least then they can track if it grows.
Right.
So far, it's only been a wart, but yeah, that was a year. I mean, of all the years I'd spent in the sun, I had no clue why that particular year, like all the little dots started showing up.
Well,
That's
that's what
why,
happens. That's what happens with sun exposure.
well, without sunscreen, I don't know what you feel about sunscreen, no sunscreen. I mean, your body does have certain natural things to fight it, and sunscreen does kind of thwart it. But at the same time, I'm white. I am translucent white. Working at night is the only safe option.
Yeah, I
Let's
know how
be
you
real
feel.
here. I'm like vampire. Let's just be honest here. Working at night is the only way that this stays this. This is actually the leftover tan from all the years on the farm. Otherwise, this is the underside of my arm. You see how there's no dots? It's white, white, white. That's
Hmm.
what color I'm supposed to be. I'm not supposed to be this, brown bread color.
Yeah, well, freckles are cute on a redhead anyway.
These are too many dots, and I already had. Let's see, my father and my mother's mother both had surgery due to skin cancer on their
Mhm.
faces. These mine's more spread out.
So back to what we were saying about these kids who don't know any the actual value of.
Oh, they don't know work. They don't know it's funny. Nothing's allowed to be funny because everything's cultural, racist, objectionable. It's like they're there for a fight. They're not there to have critical thinking and to be funny. And that's why we're only left with dick jokes and I don't know. Are we left with all the drag queen stuff? Will we even be left with dick jokes? So they're trying to cut off all the dicks and they're trying to replace all the twats. What will be left?
A bunch of sterile people, if you ask me.
With no senses of humor and no hormones, and at least not good ones that they're supposed to have.
Yeah.
But yeah, or they what's left? Politics. If everything's like in poisonous politics, like I'm not against politics, but when it reaches the level of poison or concentrated excessiveness, it's just no, 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 no. I'll go back to making fun of northern people. I'll go back to making fun of southern people.
Oh, there's plenty. Yeah, there's plenty to make fun of up north. Yeah, you people sure do talk funny up there. At least
Well,
that's
of
how my
course they
grandpa put
do.
it.
They park the car and you go get it fixed over at Short Scratch. They really did leave a message on our answer machine once of, yeah, we got the car over at Short Scratch. It took us a long time to figure out that Short Scratch was Short's garage.
That's funny, actually.
Well, because I had my mom re-listen to it, and it was like, I know I'm not crazy, but at the same time, I know what I heard. And she heard the exact same thing, so I'm not crazy. But yeah,
Whack ad. That's my favorite up there.
it's not whack, it's wicked.
I'm exaggerating.
They don't exaggerate it that way. In fact,
I,
their
I make
personalities are very still similar to the Puritans. Because if you want to talk about people who don't smile a lot, but can say, like, their sense of humor is saying the most bizarro thing with a straight face. And that's what makes them
that
so
sounds like what I
Puritan.
do to people to mess with them, just like I did the other day. You know,
Oh, yeah, it's
everybody's
how they fuck with people. Okay. In the South, they have a heart. Like, or as I like to say, they take their Southern comfort very, very seriously. And I'm not just talking about the alcohol.
yeah.
Like there's like it's just a totally opposite culture. Up north, you get more of that mafia, non-smiling, just fucking you with you for the sake of fucking with you mentality. Like they get bored, stuff happens. Like boredom is the worst thing ever because people just they'll mess with you just because they know that they can.
Yeah.
So just watch out of northern people. I mean, you get You get some real dry ones out there. I mean, they're the ones that'll take the air out of your tires and say, "Oh, you know, gotta buy a new pair. I got some right here for you."
Yeah, we've heard all about that. There's a couple of guys from New York that I've seen hauling fuel around here, and I stay away from them. I have flat out told one of them, I don't like you.
And what do you do? Like one of those fake, "Oh my god, I'm so hurt by that."
Yeah, why not? I'm trying to be a friend. I'm like, no, you're not my friend.
Yeah.
I'm cut from a different cloth altogether. So I'll say that's my own people.
I think it's also a liberal thing to where it's like they make it sound like it's okay that they can force themselves on you because they have good intentions and they just want to be friendly. No, that doesn't.
No.
Only a child would allow that type of guilt trip into their life to work.
I've spent time in places where you really can't trust the person next to you. That's why I do that. So
You gotta be careful, some of them.
I know people. I know people who will rob you and come up to you the next day. I heard you got robbed. You know,
Because they were the one robbing you.
no, just to be a smartass.
Mm. But yeah, let's see. How many people have I heard who won't do comedy on colleges? Jerry Seinfeld won't. And he's about as
No, it
liberal as
totally
you can
ruins the
get.
vibe, especially when you got all these young, impressionable minds who are just in that mindset where they came up believing that, oh yeah, we're going to change the world, and then every time something comes up that they don't like, they're out ready to fight, and they're so full of piss and vinegar. It's not even funny, but they won't give. They claim they want to be objective and fair, and they won't even give the
They don't
other
know
side
what
a
fair
chance.
means. They know
Yeah,
the word in the dictionary, but that's about it.
it's kind of like my ex-wife's version of compromise. You give up everything, I'll take over. You know,
That's not what compromise means.
you understand what I'm. You understand the dynamic of where I'm coming from. Then that's exactly how they think, and that's not how it works in the real world. Especially if you want to be taken seriously. I won't take you seriously. I don't even like going to college campuses. I don't even like some of these college students. If it's not the activism mentality, it's this, oh my God, we're such dreamers. We're going to have such a great time. I remember sitting in the DMV line in Wisconsin, and this was, well over 20 years ago. And there were a couple of University of Wisconsin Milwaukee students there, and they had changed their majors from psychology to like social work or something.
Social justice, not the same thing.
No, social work. They were going to be social workers. Well, all I ever did wanted to do was help people. When I got into the first psychology class, they were talking about how the brain works, and I'm like, I'm not a medical doctor. I just listened there, and it took everything I had not to laugh because I'm just like, you know what? All this is important somehow. And I wasn't much older than them. I was only about I was 23.
I'm pretty sure social work will sober them the hell up very, very quickly. I mean,
Yeah.
once you go through and see at least one kid who had the crap beaten out of him, had to have his jaw wired shut because his mom punched him in the face, which we did see because some friends of ours they had foster care kids. And when parents literally beat the crap out of their kids, and then the social worker has to come and remove them from the home,
Yeah.
it'll smack you around hard if you have a heart or a soul.
And we say that just to say life is a little bit rougher sometimes. I mean, I understand when parents say the world was tough out there. You know, I've been trying to get through to. I know I've talked about young Kevin in the past, but he keeps saying, "Well, my parents tell me it's going to be rough out there." Well, you have no clue, Kevin, because you're
Kevin
still.
also has autism, for the record.
Yeah. And sometimes he takes things so literally, like everybody's going to beat him up, but
He's
no,
like
there's a lot of
pretty
gray areas in the
manageable.
world, and not a whole lot of black and white. And your activism is to anybody who's out there listening, all three of you, um, hey, if you really want to listen to people, listen to where they come from, try to understand where they come from. Don't try to cancel them just because they talk about a subject matter or something you think you need to fight for. Chances are you don't, and they don't need you.
Yeah, just because there's a war doesn't mean it's your war. Or
Right.
just because someone tells you there's a problem doesn't mean that it's actually a problem for anybody else.
I mean, there's going to come a time where we're going to have to, stand up for what we believe in, but I don't necessarily think that time is all the time. You know,
Let's see. Seinfeld said he wouldn't go. Chappelle said he wouldn't go. Dean Cook said he wouldn't go. And that's saying a lot if Cook won't go. Or he's on the same level of fame where he'd more likely go.
what's the
Um,
purpose of going on a college campus anyway?
that's where a lot of the gigs are.
Well, I mean, I get it, but
Just another way that they make money. If it's limiting how many more revenue streams that they can make.
I don't know. It just seems like if you're that good at comedy, why go to college campuses to do it? Yeah, I mean,
The
especially if you got
crowd, a paying
it's
crowd is a paying crowd.
at a club, particularly high, for example, under 2 item minimum. I really don't know how the comics get paid. If somebody knows out there, let me know.
They
But
get paid by the club.
yeah,
But no, like the college campuses are like the club, except they're during daytime hours.
right.
And it was another stream. And if all you're going to do is be heckled by protesters of everything, why would you go?
Exactly.
And then you have the older, more mature, graduated from college adult version going into places like Hyenas for the open mic nights.
Why don't you tell about your experience at an open mic night here recently? What you observed?
It's after the comedy show. The three headliners were actually really good.
Hmm.
They had a local guy who's, I guess you'd call him in training, but he can't really travel right now because he is in some master's program for IT. He's over in Dallas, but he was one of the three main acts. He's good material. Afterwards, I tried to convince him because he's an Indian guy and he's always talking about brown people, and he had some funny insights into cultural difference. Essentially, it was not racist by any means. I told him, with the right haircut, you do have, like, he's a lighter Indian man. You know that you could look like an
Hmm.
Italian dude really, really easy, and no one would accuse you of always being in tech support or hand you their phone and say fix it, which is
He's an
part of the
Italian dude
joke.
in construction.
Yeah, you see where the jokes go. It's like they assume if I'm Indian, I'm one thing, but I am not always. But yeah, he's going to school with me in IT. So it's like, yeah, you're a
Thank you
cliche.
very much for calling Microsoft. My name is Sam. How may I help you? I've heard that one before.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, you're a cliche. So it's part of that lighter Italian where with the right haircut, he could look Italian, like Southern Sicilian Italian. And
Yeah.
he's really good at accents. It's like, just start talking like you're the island boy, like you're from Mipos, like Baggy Bartagamus. Just start talking like that. Tell them you want to go sailing across the moon, something. And he said, I will consider it. It's like, okay. And then go, and the Red Room is one of those, they have bars everywhere, just alcohol everywhere.
That's Texas for you in general. Alcohol everywhere. It's all right to have alcohol.
Well, they
Yeah.
have like 3 or 4 rooms down there because they're like the full basement of that huge building. Every single one has its own bar.
Okay. Can you remind me where that one is again?
The Red Room,
Yeah.
when we left, we went to the left and went up. We should have gone to the right.
Okay.
So it's back there. There was a lot of political jokes. A couple of them mentioned Trump. They seem to really like telling dick jokes and whether or not they can get laid. If not, they start
Yeah.
talking about their families, ex-wives, children, dating. One of them got engaged, so it can't be that bad. One of them was a magician with a card trick where he pulled 2 girls on stage with him, and it was one of those ones that you should really only do once you and the other person because it really wasn't a crowd pleaser because you couldn't tell what was going on.
Right.
And no offense, based on his appearance, it'd been at least 10 years since he'd been to a barber, if that explains anything. And he probably still lives in his mom's basement.
Mm-hmm.
I did not see success in this person's future. Then there's only one dude who got some of his friends to actually show up, because when you first go back there right after the comedy show, I'd say about 10 to 15 people saw it.
Right.
Then as the hours went on, like I only see it probably 2 hours in that other room, the number of people in there cut down by half. And then everyone, because you had all the guys leaning against the bar were all in the lineup because they were broken down in 4 sections. And each section had its own section leader type of thing. And each one of them
Yeah.
spoke and presented things and whatnot. And there was one woman, early 40s, had more holes in her jeans than anyone I've ever seen. Not critiquing her outfit, but you
Was
can't
she
look.
rocking that mom bod like she had 4 kids and nothing better to do with her life?
Yep,
Okay.
she was cliche as hell. And then when she got to her section, she made the mistake of telling everyone, in my opinion, it was a mistake, that she had taken an edible, and that's why she was kind of out of it. Being out of it is not a gift to everyone else. And even if they didn't have any new material, people still got up and tried to say stuff. And when I say they don't have new material, what I really mean to say is they blabbered like idiots, and they were just warning you that they were going to blabber like idiots.
Well, you got to start somewhere.
No, these are like supposedly seasoned people who are like, I don't know, I live my life today. They tried to say something that sounded slightly ironic, and it really wasn't. It's like, thank you for wasting my time. Those are minutes I can never get back.
You know, it would be funny if you actually said that and heckled them.
Well, there are a couple of guys who actually got mad because nobody laughed, or there was such a low, like, there wasn't even like a murmur. People hardly smiled at what he was saying. That was the political dude. And even if
Mm-hmm.
you were for everything he was saying, he didn't give them a reason to see humor. He did not elicit emotion out of anybody.
Oh boy.
And usually, drunk people are very moldable, and his words didn't mold anything.
Don't want to get up there
And
and
there
tell them.
was like the only other lady in the there was the girls, like the ones, there's probably by the late like midnight or so, there's only like 4 college looking type girls, or they had already graduated. They're young,
Right.
very nicely dressed up. They came in to see one of the very last guys in the lineup who brought up a notebook to do his set. And it was kind of boring, so I went to the bathroom.
There
I
you go.
usually don't leave a performance. I'm not rude that way. But there was one black lady and one black dude that didn't leave a very nice booth in the back. But I think based on Instagram, I think she's a talent booker.
Oh.
Because I'm not, like I said, just they all kept looking at her like she was the only person in the room. But I'm pretty sure it's
Well.
her.
Okay.
I mean, I've heard funnier stories in my back seat, you know?
Yeah. No joke.
I mean, heck, I could tell funnier stories. But anyhow, no, none of them told stories. They were just trying to make like jokes and made them with modern concepts. It didn't work. Or some of them
No.
would do like a play on words. Did not work. But yeah, the main guys, they were pretty good.
Right.
You could tell there was a good variety, and you could tell who their target markets normally were. But they
Right.
were still funny. They crossed over easily. but you could still tell who they generally were used to talking to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, good. They were still good. But what's that old expression? Some of them shouldn't give up their day job.
Yep. Well, at least the one guy getting his master's in IT has something to fall back. I'm pretty sure we can find some
I'm pretty
funny
sure his
stories.
parents won't let him get into comedy.
See, funny stories would be like stuff that I pull on people. You know what I mean? You know, like here recently, I was at a truck stop, Henrietta, Texas. Okay, and I had to deliver, but the load couldn't quite fit, so I had to wait for a little while for the volume to sell down a little bit. Okay, no big deal. This has happened before, and I had time to do it. They're going to pay me for sitting there. So I go inside. There's a restaurant inside there. I go sit down. And this one old man, while I'm talking to another coworker on the phone, he'd come up to me and ask me about the place and all that. I said, I don't actually work here. You hear that? Speaking of
I keep telling the story, but I'm gonna go get him.
Okay. Anyway, the conversation gets to the price of fuel, and we all know what's going on with the price of fuel these days. And
You better
he
not
starts
have to leave in 5 minutes.
he starts complaining about it. When are these prices going to go down? Blah blah blah. He had to be an old man about in his 70s, and I said, I hope they don't go down. I have never made as much money as I have right now. My commissions
As if that goes to you at all.
Yeah, I know. I went into, hey, I've just bought a black Cadillac Escalade, and next week I'm going to the dealership and buy my wife one. You're getting the white one. Look at me.
Yeah.
Really? What's he doing up there?
He's never jumped up there before, ever.
He's getting bold.
Yeah.
Introducing our cat, the big dum-dum Dusty.
The one that doesn't like to shut up.
Yeah, he don't like to shut up. So he was Mr. Quiet for the longest time. Now it's every...
Mr. Meek and Mild is now Mr. Lion Roars in my face.
Yeah. Meow. You hear that?
He's not allowed outside for a while. Until it's dark out.
Yeah.
And he likes to complain.
Yeah.
But yes, you were saying about Cadillac or Escalades.
Anyway, I said that my commissions were so high that I bought myself a Cadillac Escalade, and next week I'm going to the dealership and buy you a white one. I got the black one. You're pulling my chain. I'll admit I make good money doing what I do, but it's not that good. I've pulled the Cadillac Escalade thing for years and years and years. All right.
You lied to people with a straight face.
Yeah. Well, like this one lady, when gas prices really were high, I was in a little town called Fife, Alabama. And if you don't know where it is, not many people do. Only the people who live there know. That's right, Dusty. You tell him.
If I thought he'd be quieter by kicking him out, I would, but I know we can hear him down the hall. His voice just carries.
We might as well change the title of the podcast to a commentary by Dusty. How hard is it to be the house cat? See, this is funny stuff, you know, when the cat wants to interrupt your broadcast. Meow! You know.
I mean, he does it as a form of manipulation. Like if he wants something, he starts scratching by the doorpost, and now we have to replace the molding around the house because of his manipulation tactics.
Yeah. Meow.
Or maybe he shut up now. I'm trying to encourage him with
back to
that.
what I was saying. I've used Cadillac Escalade thing for years. I remember one time this lady in Fife, Alabama, she was dressed to the nines. Looks like she commuted to Chattanooga. It's really less than an hour from that part of Alabama to Chattanooga. So a lot of people work over there, northeast Alabama into Chattanooga and all that. And she was dressed to the nines. Looks like she bought every bit of her clothes at the most expensive stores in the mall. And she was driving a Lincoln Navigator. I just don't know what I'm going to do about these high gas prices. I just can't afford to drive my car around.
Learn to walk. Go to the gym, learn to walk.
Well, instead of being
Give
a
up the
smart
gym.
ass like that, I'm a different type of smart ass. I said, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Man, these fuel prices have got me going. I can't afford my dues at Gunnersville Yacht Club. And there's a Gunnersville Yacht Club in Gunnersville, Alabama. I've been there. I've delivered fuel. And as weird as this is, Lake Gunnersville in Alabama, um, I said, I don't know. I got 18,000 square foot house I can't pay for. I've got 6 Cadillac Escalades. All 5 of my kids are in private school. I'm going to send them to public school. And she just looked at me funny.
Yeah, any normal person would know we'd sell at least 2 of those cars before sending the kids to private school, getting them out of private school.
Yeah, I'd sell my Aston Martin before I'd send my kids to public school. So that's the truth. If I had one,
If we had kids,
I don't have one. I have a Buick. People, okay.
Actually, that Buick story is actually kind of funny in its own self.
My Buick.
Well, remember that old one you had that was a drug dealer car with all the cracks in the windshield, and you got pulled over because they were convinced that you looked like a drug dealer?
Oh, any type of older car in a neighborhood like this, yeah.
With that many cracks in the windshield, yeah.
Cracks
the
in the
cops
windshield.
thought
Yeah.
you were bad news.
FYI, I don't like going to the car dealership buying new cars or car payments or anything like that. So,
but no, the fact that I picked up a customer driving for Uber who was putting his car in storage because his mother had died, and that was her car. It only had 70,000 miles on it, and that it was a 2010 version of your 1980 whatever version.
that was a 1996 Buick I had. All right, it was a 1996 Buick, and this one's a 2000. I still get pulled over, by the way.
Well, just not as often, right?
No, not as often, but I still get pulled over. A lot of it is driving through North Fort Worth in the middle of the night. What are you doing down here? I just bought gas at Circle K. I'm going home.
Yeah, it's like some of us work third shift. Heaven forbid.
Yeah. Some of us work night
Judgment.
shift, Bubba. Do you not get that?
And cops work third. I mean, they're not the
I'm
only
going to
ones.
call out Officer Williams of the Watauga Police Department. He want to pull this line on me. Well, there have been a report of break-ins in this area. We leave our garage pretty much open.
No, I have it left right now, I think.
Okay. But anyway, the whole thing is, really, you know this town better than I do, and I've lived here. I've lived here since 2015, right?
Yeah, I lived here since 2009.
Yeah. So what?
What's the question?
Break-ins started happening all of a sudden that I come through the neighborhood. What?
Well, they've always had a
every
consistent
day
flow.
For 8 years, I've been coming through here, driving in the middle of the night home.
No, they've always had a consistent flow of spurts of theft and whatnot because so many houses are rentals. It all depends on who moves here every 6 months to a year. So there is flow. There is rotation.
I know, and these that's a whole other podcast about how I think landlords should be screening their tenants a little bit better. They can get a lot more money in this neighborhood for their rentals, and they can screen them properly.
They think they do, as long as they pay them.
Whole other podcast. There's only been a couple of consistent, and you have to be consistent about it. You can't just make exceptions for people.
Getting back to the funniness of your car.
My car, yes, I have an older car. I get pulled over a lot. Oh, well, you
used to get pulled off way more than you do now.
Yeah.
Or that we went to go see it, the minute that you wrote in it, I knew that negotiating an even cheaper price was not an option because you'd already fallen in love with your spirit animal, known as a Buick Century.
Well, the Blue Book value at the time on it was still pretty solid. So,
yeah, you were in love with that car.
Yeah, it runs great. I've only had to have the transmission rebuilt on it.
Yeah,
like I went that far. I'm not going to buy a new car.
You were truly, truly in love with that car. Like, I created a monster that I cannot uncreate.
Well, the truth is I've always gravitated towards those type of mid-size sedans.
Yeah, just spirit animal. I knew I was screwed the minute you got out of that car.
Grandpa car, as it was called. My old Buick was called the grandpa car. Well, exactly. Grandpa knew what he was doing.
Yours was beyond grandpa car. It was grandpa car so old that the next generation inherited it and then beat the crap out of it even more with all the cracks and all the busted parts. That thing was barely legal.
I know I had a hard time getting it to pass emissions, but we worked on it. We worked on it. It barely passed. When I lived in Las Vegas with it, it barely passed. So,
But yeah, people don't see the humor in everyday life anymore either. They only think that politics is the only humor that they can have.
no, we got Karen out here. Let me speak to your manager. He was a smart ass.
Well, how smart was my ass?
I don't know. I poll them at Starbucks all the time. Hey, you had any good Karen stories here lately? And they'll tell me something.
Looks like marriage.
The way she handled my beverage. She just grabbed it really hard, and I just didn't like it, so I had the other girl make the beverage.
I think I saw a fly in it, so I had them remake it, or they lied about the fly being there just because they touched it wrong.
Yeah. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous, but it's funny because people out there really do exist like that, and part of an entitlement mentality. I don't think that helps comedy at all either. If you're entitled to the fact that you don't think you need to be offended, then you probably don't need to be in a comedy club in the first place.
Yeah, if you're not willing to be open-minded, don't pretend you know anything about comedy.
Yeah.
Or
especially those who are looking out for their children. They should be looking out for their children. This is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is they have carried it too far.
No, I don't think I like the nature of your joke. What's my child going to think?
I said the word asinine on a radio broadcast, and I got chewed up one side and down the other. Well, what if some kid says asinine? I'm like, look, if the kids listen to political talk radio in the middle of the
asinine is a regular word. What they're protecting is the word ass, which comes from the Bible. It just means that you're a dumb animal.
Yeah.
Which I know for all of my religious beliefs that I have, there is one thing that I'm not willing to go back on, which is freedom of speech. I enjoy all profanity. And nowhere in the Bible does it truly specifically say don't do it. Now, I do try to skip the ones that might take God's name in vain.
If you're so worried about your kids, and you need to be if you're so worried about your kids hearing stuff, you need to be a little bit more proactive in what your kids hear and how you explain it to them.
We'll just tell them it's not for us, so don't do it. But they still don't know what it is.
Yeah, and pretty much tell them what's allowed, what's not allowed in your house, and stand firm on it. And I don't have any other better advice for you, but you know what? Your kids are going to hear some stuff that you ain't going to be around for all the time. And some of it might actually be comedy.
Not every parent has the same limit to things. Like, we weren't allowed to use the word bosom because it had to do with a woman's chest, but at the same time, you have the old expression of bosom buddies, which contextually doesn't present it the same way. And some parents were like, sure, my kids would never use big words like that, so sure, let them learn it. And other ones, like, we actually did, and we got in trouble for it. And none of this.
You got in trouble for using the word bosom. I lived at Tennessee Baptist Children's Home. We got in trouble for thinking about it. I mean, absolutely. We got in trouble preemptively. Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure if they could have found a way, they would have done that too.
Mm-hmm.
As if the brainwash wasn't strong enough already.
People wonder why I make fun of the Baptists. It has a lot to do with a lot of my extended relatives and their affiliation with the Baptists and how they present themselves to the world, and also the Tennessee Baptist Children's Home, which tried to be a sanctuary, See, my parents sent me to the Tennessee Baptist Children's Home because they thought a good religious upbringing would set me straight. But they were thinking old school Baptist. spare the rod, spoil the child. And the state of Tennessee would get involved in a case like that and shut that place down. They were technically a group home and were regulated by the state.
So they couldn't use and abuse you the way that your mother
They were,
thought
they,
you
they
had
were
to be
owned by the
abused.
Southern. They were owned by the Southern Baptist Convention, but they were subject to state audits.
The kids
especially
could not visibly show bruises.
You weren't allowed to touch the kids. Unless it was like somebody's life was in danger, but you weren't allowed to touch the kids. You weren't allowed to say anything or really, so they had pretty comprehensive, it was like any other group home, state run or otherwise. But I made fun of them because they did make us go to church. Church attendance was mandatory. And I'll be honest with you, at the church we went to, I saw stuff that I probably should have seen. And it was amongst some of the kids. It wasn't the adults. That's not who I had my beef with. During that time period, my beef was with my parents. But we couldn't watch certain things on TV, especially. I think I drifted in there one day watching Designing Women. Designing Women, totally banned. I got my TV privileges revoked for a month on that one. MTV was out of the question. Certain radio stations were completely off the table. We had a lot of country music and Christian music stars come in the area because where the Tennessee Baptist Children's Home was located, we were in real close proximity to some multi-million-dollar homes owned by musicians, record producers, and other people in the music business.
When my dad still used the old Datsun that sat for years in our driveway when I was really young, we listened to the rock radio. It's the only time. Otherwise, the only access we had to music was either on cassette tape or vinyl.
Growing up in the 80s with the big satanic panic and all that, I mean, it had everybody in an uproar. If y'all want to hear another funny story, I have a particular bent against Jehovah's Witnesses. And I'm not going to apologize for that. If you are a Jehovah's Witness and you happen to be listening, you probably shouldn't be listening, first of all, if you're that true to your religion, and two, you can consider me apostate. But there was this one Jehovah's Witness kid in junior high who really, I don't know why he wanted to take a liking to me, but he asked me one day if I believed in God, and at the time I didn't. I told him I don't believe in God. Well, he's talking to other people at school and all people. Next thing I know, I'm getting pulled into the guidance counselor's office. Somebody told us you're a devil worshiper. Well, I don't believe in him either. That was the conclusion of that one.
So I guess he isn't very well versed in atheism.
And the satanic panic was real. But every day at the Tennessee Baptist Children's Home, they did talk to us about negative influences and stuff like that, and how the devil's trying to get us. And they were in the business of getting souls to Jesus too. In the business of getting souls to Jesus, because that's how they got their funding.
I always wondered, I know there's not a lot of things that we're allowed to know, with how Einstein put it, heaven's like a giant library, except you can't take out the books.
Right.
How, there's always all these religious cultures that are trying to analyze how God does his accounting. You got the Catholic version of accounting and guilt and all the rest of that. And you have the Jewish form of accounting and sins, very similar to Catholicism, but how they deal with the guilt or the need for forgiveness is a little bit different. What if they're all wrong? What if their account, we are taught several different versions of accrual accounting, just-in-time accounting, all these versions of how to treat the numbers and the words and everything. Mm-hmm. What if they're wrong? And how do we know things are being accredited to, they're treating it like the brownies, you get badges.
Yeah.
They're making their own badges for things they assume that they acquired or won over or received. But how do they know that? That's why I always go with the old joke, it started long ago with my family, of, brownie points for Jesus. It's how do you know? It's like pat
That's
yourself
exactly
on
how
the
I view the Jehovah's Witnesses, by the way. That's what they're doing out here. They're knocking on doors, they're winning over people, and they're doing it for brownie points.
supposedly winning people over.
Yeah. I do listen to former Jehovah's Witnesses and what they're, there's a couple of channels on YouTube out there that are now one of them is really trying to keep an objective point of view about certain things and making logical arguments, and he don't just go after his own former faith. He's gone after the Mormons and these televangelists out here who, in my opinion, probably don't need a private jet. Kenneth Copeland.
Well, if you hear enough rich people talk about it, if they have a legitimate work reason to be rested, to go to their next assignment, I kind of get, like Ron White was talking about when he owned a jet. He doesn't anymore because his life changed. But at the same time, if you're doing, if you broke it down, he was doing, like, even though he only toured like 9 to 10 months out of the year, he was doing 2 and 3 shows a night everywhere he went.
Mm-hmm.
Non-stop, week after week after week after week. So that could justify a jet, and his income was high enough where he needed the sleep to be good for the next show. In that instance, owning a jet's not a bad thing. But if you're just doing it for the glamour of it all and just to say that you can do it, no.
Yeah, the ones that get me are the ones that say put in your seed of anywhere from $58 to $1,000 or whatever. Really, is that going to help somebody is that going to help some old lady watching the show?
That's why I don't donate to churches anymore. If you really want to donate to a person who's truly in need, what is it called? There's a thing where you can find like a soldier. They're coming back to the States and like their family needs some, like they need a new car. You can donate to help buy them a car.
Right.
That kind of stuff, like direct from person to person. It's a lot like the GoFundMe stuff, but it's like only for soldiers or only for people who've like served this country. They're just trying to feed their kids. They're the last ones to file for welfare. They're the ones with the good sense of humor.
Yeah.
They're the ones who have to go in the military in order to afford college.
The ones that laid an impression on me, and I saw a lot of this out in California, but they'd hold car washes and retail establishments just to, somebody in their family died. Oh, my mother passed away. Dude washing my car. He was literally there washing my car so he could get donations to help pay for his mother's funeral expenses.
Yeah, it's just about being aware of the world around you.
Yep.
I don't think the youngins are even aware of most of the world around them. Like, they don't walk outside and talk to anybody, so they don't have anything else to talk about.
Yeah. You can only see the world so much when you're sitting there on your Xbox playing video games.
They really don't see it.
You want to see the world? You want to see funny stuff? Come out to the truck stop. I'll show you some funny stuff. You might actually smell some funny stuff.
And it will be totally normal to see a guy walk by holding 4 gallons of some yellow-looking stuff. Yes, it's been that long since he's been near an actual bathroom.
Yeah, those irritate me. Or how about the car hauler who had a family of 5 in his truck?
How
Seriously.
Smuggle them over the border.
His wife. No, these weren't Mexicans. No, they were African American. They were hauling a truck. I don't know if they were living there or they just went along for the ride that time. I didn't ask. But these were people I had to boot off my drops. Like, y'all gotta go. I gotta do my job. Yeah, just come to the truck stop. Come on to the truck stop. I'll show you some funny stuff. You want to get out there? It's funny stuff.
Anybody of country folks are funny.
Funny stuff is all around you. You just got to go out and look. Somebody's going to say something weird to you one of these days. And sometimes you get to thinking about it in your own mind. What did they mean by that? And it's like, are people that simple-minded about stuff? And that's where you can tell the story.
Sometimes they really are that simple-minded.
Well, I dealt with a lot of that. Everybody, the broke people who give you financial advice. There's funny stuff in that all the time. Well, what you need to do is you need to. How much have you put back in your lifetime, sir? You look like you'll be about 60 years old. If my calculations are correct, you should have about 500,000 in the bank. Well, I've spent all my money. I'm like, why should I listen to your financial advice then? Nobody wants to listen to a loser like you. Now that's kind of funny, actually, if you present it in the right way. Which leads me to other life advice. Your Aunt Virginia has been married more times than Elizabeth Taylor. Do you really want to take marital advice from her when she runs every time there's a problem? No.
She's just experimenting. Life's like a box of chocolate. You just got to take a bite out of each one, and that's how she feels about marriage.
Yeah, if
You
anything,
don't know until you marry them and get your alimony.
Yeah. And that was Aunt Margaret. She would do that.
I had a couple of relatives like
when
that.
When a lot of women say, I want a man to take care of me, they're not talking about protecting. They're talking about
alimony.
That's afterwards. In the beginning, it's more like, I want to get my nails done. I want to get my hair done. You're going to have to work extra hard.
Chew toy until you're no longer of use.
Yeah. Go find a sugar daddy. That's all I got to say about it. And you can turn that into comedy gold. Something like that. But
that's
the
social leeches of economic whatever.
Yeah, we know who they are.
They're not here to have your babies. They're here to drain and run. They did a pretty good job of that in that movie, You've Got Mail. Now, it wasn't the main story, but you had the grandfather, the father, then Tom Hanks, and then all of their children, to where Tom Hanks played, like he was the good uncle kind of, but he was playing uncle to his own aunt, who was like 9 years old, and his own brother, who was like 5.
Ugh. Yes, we hear from the peanut gallery.
I'm not opening that door right now for him. But of course, the claw marks next to that door is a good sign that maybe I should.
Yeah.
He's very manipulative.
Yeah.
But yeah, the next generation is completely clueless, judgmental. And I like what the middle comedian said. He's one of the lightest skinned black dudes that you could see. He's like, racism is stupid and hating somebody for a color is ridiculous.
I actually agree.
I mean, there's so many better reasons to not like people. Stupidity being one of them, or ignorance, or...
Hate me for what I do for a living. I haul fuel. You think I'm getting all the money, don't you?
The only people getting the money is the ones selling the oil in the first place.
Mm-hmm. You must be making a lot of money with all that. Yeah, actually, I am. When we're hiring, too. We're taking over the world and we're hiring. I said that before. That's funny.
Just taking people for a ride.
My employer has their hands in a lot of stuff, and when I see kind of out of the context of their main banner, and they see me in my truck, and I have said this before, I'm like, yes, we're taking over the world, and by the way, we're hiring.
Yeah, you too can spend $5,000 getting your CDL, so you can also use
this was another truck driver. I just wanted to see what he'd say to that one, And I do that to pick on their egos, because some of these truck drivers, especially these over the road owner operators, big, they got the suicide gear shifter on their big giant Peterbilt. And they're sitting there, owner, I own my truck. You ain't got health insurance and you're eating ramen noodles, but you own your truck. Okay. Mm-hmm. I had steak for lunch and I don't own this truck. That's how much money I'm making.
Yeah, you gotta do the math.
Yep. Ow. The peanut gallery.
Self-entitled bitch. Among other things.
Yeah, next week's podcast is all about Dusty.
He gets enough coverage as is. If he gets any wheezier.
Oh.
I think we're about done. I think we flogged this horse as long as we could.
Yeah, why beat a dead horse? Some of you people out there who were thinking about open mic nights, you better actually be funny. You better be the life of the party before you go on one of these open mic nights. And that's all I got to say.
And don't take an edible before you go up because you'll play dead.
It's not going to make you funnier. It's going to make you look intoxicated. Edibles even legal here in Texas?
Yes, CBD oil ones are.
Okay, I didn't know they mess you up that bad. Okay.
Well, remember the time I took one and then I went food shopping?
Yeah.
I thought it said to take one so you get a baseline of how strong it was. I thought it wouldn't be that strong and that you're supposed to take more than one. And that it said up to 4 hours to react. So I was going to go down, get a few things, come back, and it hit like within 45 minutes. It did not hit within 4 hours, and I had problems finding my way home.
Was I at work that night?
Yep.
Okay. That's why I don't really remember it. Okay.
No, you weren't there for any of it. And it was so hard to focus to remind myself to bring more groceries in. I know I got as far as putting all the cold stuff in the fridge, and then there's some canned stuff that was just littered all over the kitchen floor, and then I went straight to bed because I couldn't think straight.
You see, those stories are funny. Don't just get up there. I just took an edible and I'm effed up. That's not funny. That's pitiful.
Or trying to guide yourself and trying not to look high. Luckily, I always look high, so it doesn't really matter. It's kind of like Jim Brewer with his eyes. Like my eyes do the same thing. And like, what are you falling asleep? What are you high? It's like, no, I'm just being me.
So I had a friend of mine. I'll tell a funny story. I had a friend of mine who got drunk. Okay. He got really drunk and high. He called me. He said, hey, come pick me up. All right, fine. I'm off work that day. I got, 10 miles from his house. And I go drive out in the country. And this was when I was living in Jackson, Tennessee. And I go pick him up. He's living out in the country. And time it took me to drive that 10 miles from the center of Jackson to way up north in that part of the county where he lived. He had swallowed 3 Valiums and drink about 5, 6, 7 shots of vodka. And his dad was there. And he's like, get him out of the house. All right, I'll see what I can do. I had to carry his big ass out of the house. And
which one was
this was not funny. I was driving an old S10, 1984 S10, right? I get to the end of his road and I'm about to make the left to head south. And I got to do something with this kid. And he tries to get out of the truck and he's trying to stand up to pee. And he falls face plants right into a ditch. Oh, fuck. All right, let's get his ass up. All right, you're going to have to sit in there. I buckle him in. He falls asleep. I go head west. I head toward a little community called Denmark, Tennessee, where I know somebody had a sanctuary where we could actually watch him.
Somebody was taken to the hospital and get his stomach pumped.
I probably should. In retrospect, I should have done that. But yeah, I probably should have done that. But he was able. We got him. I had a friend that had a camper trailer, and I'm like, I'll just watch him from here. So we spent the night in the camper trailer. Well, I get out of the camper trailer. I'm talking to my friend. Of course, I've confiscated his bottle of vodka, and I hand it over to my friend's boyfriend. And he drinks the rest of the vodka because he has a high tolerance of alcohol. And we all, I'm talking to everybody, and he comes out of the fucking front door of the trailer. I gotta piss. And just pisses right in front of God and everybody right out there. And he is so effed up, it's not even funny. Get your ass back in there and pull your pants up. Finally, he passes out, goes to sleep. I'm sitting up all night watching him breathe. He gets up the next morning. He doesn't remember a damn thing. I was like, how did I get here? Then I start to mess with him. Put on this blindfold. I can't tell you where we are. I drive with him back home, back to his house with a blindfold on. And he's paranoid the whole time that something's about to happen to him.
That's a decent story.
I know. Taught him a lesson. Mm-hmm.
There was a girl once, she liked to manipulate people by threatening to kill herself, cut herself, all this stuff. I'm like, you don't need a knife or a gun to kill yourself. So get her in the car. And she has this thing of always threatening to jump out of the car. Like if you go to a stop sign, she'll jump out of the car. I was rolling through all these back roads. I didn't stop. And I had her convinced that I was going to drop her without a cell phone in the great big woods.
Mm-hmm.
For the record, the Great Big Woods is from Winnie the Pooh.
The Great Big Woods. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so I go through Ashland. I go through all the stop signs because there's the easy access road, so there's no stoplights or anything. I just drive north. I knew I was going to go up to the Campton exit and just take a right and come back south again.
Mm-hmm.
But that ride is like nothing but dark trees. There was no cops out. It was, like I said, late at night, all this stuff. And all of a sudden her personality started changing. Like, I got to make this person nice or she's not going to stop. And by the time we got up there and started looping around, I'm like, you finally going to behave or am I really going to dump you out here? Because it was cold enough she could have frozen to death.
Yeah.
It's like Mother Nature will change so much about you. Like, don't fuck with me because all this could have been real.
Drunk stories are always fun. Yeah.
Oh, she was sober. So was I.
Mm-hmm.
I got tired of her being a bullshitter.
Yep.
It's like, I'm going to permanently change how you treat me. You're going to die and I don't care. Or at least make her think that.
Mm-hmm. Anyway.
I think we're done.
Thanks for listening, all three of you. Appreciate you. Thanks for being loyal.
Have a good one, y'all. Like and subscribe. Share with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Cut out pieces and then share it again. Bye, y'all.